Thanks for tuning into this podcast. If you appreciate the news that Rebel brings you, consider being a part of what makes it possible. You can do so by subscribing to our exclusive content at rebelnewsplus.com. That means get exclusive shows, documentary, behind the scenes, and more. And it's for a cheap price as low as $8 to start. We appreciate your support.
CBC says calling Hamas terrorists, well, it's just too political, but they'll happily push a baseless conspiracy theory that Russian agents were behind the Freedom Convoy. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. It's August 12th, 2025, and you're watching the Ezra Levant Show.
Shame on you, you censorious thug.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I want to bring to the committee amidst the chaos and the shock and the horror that so many Canadians experienced over the course of the week with regards to the terror attack last Saturday in Israel. A memo from the CBC was quietly circulated. Not so quiet because it became public. And it was telling journalists to avoid the word terrorist when referring to Hamas fighters in their publication. So for those on the committee, and I think most Canadians know this by now, but Hamas has been a recognized terrorist organization in this country for over 20 years. And the memo that was leaked reads as follows: do not refer to militant soldiers or anyone else as terrorists. And do not was emphasized in bold letters. And there's more in that memo. The notion of terrorism remains heavily politicized and is part of the story, even when quoting or clipping a government or a source referring to fighters as, quote, terrorists. We should add context to ensure the audience understands that this is opinion and not fact. And that includes statements from the Canadian government and Canadian politicians. So the question really is, Mr. Chair, if the Canadian government recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization, and rightfully should, and if you've read what the Canadian government says about that organization, you would quite understand why they were so definitively listed as a terrorist organization. And if you further looked at the Hamas Covenant or the revised charter from 1988, it is clear Hamas has been clear on their genocidal intentions. So the memo was circulated by a gentleman named George Atchie, and he's the director of journalistic standards at the CBC, which of course gets a fair share of Canadian tax dollars. And we would simply like to know why that direction of opinion was put forward by the CBC. They are, after all, a news organization that Canadians pay for, so we would expect that they would get news. So given that Hamas has been declared a terrorist organization by the Government of Canada since 2002, and that the horrific Hamas terrorist attacks against Israel left thousands of innocent people dead and injured, and that an email directive was sent from the Director of Journalistic Standards of CBC News, Mr. George Atchie, to all employees of CBC News, directing them to downplay the coverage of the horrific, sadistic violence perpetrated by Hamas against innocent people in Israel by not referring to the attackers as terrorists and falsely claiming that Gaza continued to be under occupation after Israel had pulled out in 2005. And given that the CBC receives, $1.4 billion in public funding through taxpayer dollars annually, and that this committee has a mandate to review government expenditure, I believe that the committee should denounce Mr. Atchie's comments and report to the House. Summon the president of CBC, Catherine Tate, to appear for 2 hours by herself within 7 days of this motion hopefully being adopted by the Liberals and the NDP on this committee, summon the Director of Journalistic Standards, Mr. George Ashey, and invite, of course, the CBC Ombudsman, Mr. Jack Nagler, to appear for a minimum of 2 hours to address the CBC's position on journalistic standards and practices.
Sometimes the CBC's bias is subtle, right? It's buried in story selection, the kind of things they choose to cover, like climate change and pride issues. It's in careful wording or in what they don't cover, right? Like vaccine injuries. But other times they just put it in writing, in a memo. And thanks to Blacklock's reporter, we've now seen exactly that. You see, Blacklock's got a hold of a 2023 letter from George Ashey, the CBC's Director of Journalism Standards, explaining why the state broadcaster won't call actual terrorists terrorists. The reason? The word is too, quote, highly politicized and reflects a, quote, certain narrative. What narrative is that? I think truth. Now, the letter was written 7 months before October 7th, 2023, when Hamas, a group the Canadian government has officially listed as a terrorist organization since 2002, slaughtered 1,400 people in Israel, including 8 Canadians. Women and girls were raped and murdered. Entire families were massacred. Babies were brutally killed. If that's not terrorism, nothing is. And yet 4 days after the massacre, Ashey sent a directive to every newsroom. Don't call them terrorists. Don't call them militants. Don't call them soldiers. Don't use the word at all. And let's remember, Hamas recorded their atrocities and then published them so that the world could see. For years before this, CBC routinely identified Hamas as a terrorist group because it is an outlawed terrorist organization. But now, suddenly saying terrorist is too loaded, too political. One label the CBC just won't touch. And Canadians have noticed. In 2023, according to Blacklock's reporting, CBC racked up nearly 4,800 viewer complaints, a 45% jump from the year before. Most of those complaints were about CBC's anti-Semitic, both sides coverage of Hamas atrocities. Conservative MP Rachel Thomas put it bluntly in committee. Listen to this.
The CBC is failing. They are failing the Jewish community. They are failing the innocent whose lives have been lost. They are failing Canadians. There's a leaked memo from the Director of Journalistic Standards who instructed journalists to refrain from using the term terrorist in his reference or in their reference to Hamas fighters. Now, Hamas, as mentioned, has been listed on Canada's official list of terrorists for more than 20 years. And so this isn't a point for debate. This isn't a matter of opinion, but rather this is fact. And so to justify its decision, however, the CBC came out and said, well, we just don't want our journalists to take sides. And if they use the term terrorist, they will be taking a side. But to that, I would say, no doubt. Of course you're taking a side. You're taking a side against terrorists. What other side would you want to take? When you have 1,400 people who were massacred in an evening, when you have women and girls who are raped and then murdered and then paraded through the city, when you have 40 babies who are beheaded, whose side are you on? As if there would be some other side to take. Of course you should be against Hamas, which is a terrorist organization functioning in a sadistic manner. It is pure evil, and to suggest otherwise is alarming.
But here's where it really gets rich, hypocritical. CBC only gets squeamish about taking sides when it's actual terrorists. When it comes to peaceful Canadians they don't like but would love to label as terrorists, they'll take sides all day long. They'll even invent a narrative if they need to. Let's rewind to January 2022. I think you guys know exactly where I'm going with this. Neil Koksal, anchor of Power and Politics, is interviewing Liberal Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino as the anti-mandate Freedom Convoy is rolling into Ottawa. And completely unprompted, she just floats this fever dream into the ether. Listen to this.
I do ask that because, given Canada's support of Ukraine in this current crisis with Russia, I don't know if it's far-fetched to ask, but there is concern that Russian actors could be continuing to fuel things as this protest grows, but perhaps even instigating it from the outset.
Well, again, I'm going to defer to our partners in the public safety, the trained officials and experts in that area.
Concerns? Concerns from whom? She doesn't say. No evidence, no sources. And here's the truth. CSIS had already denied any Russian involvement in the convoy. Did Mendicino correct her? Of course not. He just deferred to his national security experts, the same experts that had already debunked that fevered dream from Koksal. So here's your CBC double standard in black and white. With Hamas, they hide behind nuance and balance and claim moral clarity on issues of terrorist atrocities. Well, that's just too political. But with peaceful Canadian truckers, with blue-collar uprisings, they run wild with conspiracy theories about dangerous foreign plots. Even the RCMP called the convoy peaceful. Organizers told their supporters to report any troublemakers to police.
And at no time did any of those 4 individuals not cooperate with the OPS.
Not to my knowledge.
And the same was true with the Ontario Provincial Police.
In your view, was the Emergencies Act necessary to end the protest in Ottawa?
Well, that's a loaded question. I'm a police officer. Parliament gives us legislation. We don't make legislation. They provide it to us and we use it to the best of our abilities. They gave us a piece of legislation to use. We were thankful for it and we used it to the best of our abilities to incorporate in our plan.
And in your view, was there a police solution to the demonstrations?
A police solution? Yes.
Policing solution?
There was a solution, and we reached that solution. We had some help with the EMCPA, the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act regulations that we have at the province, and the Emergencies Act. But in my humble opinion, we would have reached the same solution with the plan that we had without either of those pieces of legislation.
Within around the same timeline?
Yes.
But the CBC and the rest of the legacy media still painted the convoy as Canada's January 6th, complete with shadowy Russian agents, except there were no threats to national security at all.
I think the superintendent's evidence was that there were no threats that materialized, and it said there were no credible threats to national security. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. And that's a very important part and piece, is that when you move from strategic intelligence into operational and tactical intelligence and establishing thresholds for mandates and thresholds for charges, that further analysis needs to be done to determine whether it's credible and whether that threat actually came to fruition.
And this is why Canadians don't trust the CBC. They don't just report the news. They decide the side they're on first, and then they build the journalism to match it. They don't do what we do at Rebel News, and that is follow the facts wherever they lead us. And let me be clear here. I'm not against bias in journalism. I think it should come as no surprise to you that I am conservative and I see things through a conservative worldview and I report through a conservative worldview. But what I am about my viewpoint is honest. And I don't insult you by thinking that you can't see it too. And I don't expect you to pay for it unless you want to. And as the CBC, you're forced to hand them $1.5 billion a year. for their insults and their narrative building and their half-truths. Stay with us. I'll show you some real journalism done a lot better for a lot less right after the break. It's our own Lincoln Jay with a story of unpaid rent and allegations of criminal activity taking place at a residence in Brantford, Ontario, as a landlord tries to evict a troublesome tenant. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us.
Lincoln Jay reporting for Rebel News. A few weeks ago, I received a panicked phone call from a woman named Lila Protopapa, who is a landlord in Brantford, Ontario. She claimed that criminal activity was taking place on her property. Lila and her family have owned 4 fourplex rental properties in Brantford since 1984. In November 2024, they began renting one of their bachelor units to a man named Jeff Haggith. Lila alleges that various criminal activities were occurring in and around the unit, people coming and going at all hours, extreme amounts of garbage piling up outside, and other concerning behavior. On top of that, the tenant stopped paying rent in February 2025. After months of back and forth with the landlord and tenant board, Lila was finally able to obtain an eviction order. I decided to drive down to Brantford to see for myself what exactly was going on at this property. On the first day, I spoke with Lila and some of the other tenants to gather more insight into the situation. I returned a few days later to document the eviction, which was carried out by the sheriff, a representative from the Court Enforcement Office of the Superior Court of Justice. Watch the footage, come to your own conclusions, and let me know in the comments what you think about this situation. Let's check it out.
My name is Lila Protopapa. I live in Brantford, Ontario with my family. My family has owned these properties behind me for 41 years. At 21 Dundas, Unit 5, there's been a tenant that we rented to, just one gentleman, back in November. We thought he was going to be a very good tenant. We had renovated the building, we renovated the apartment. There's been a lot of shady activities happening here with drugs and prostitution. It's like a magnet. It attracts a lot of problems.
The main issues we find are like the needles lying around, them dumping their garbage, constant issues of traffic and drug deals going on.
Does police do anything here?
No, not at all.
I involved Dan McCreary, the counselor of Ward 3 here. I thought he would get, quick intervention and my problems would be solved. Unfortunately, it augmented the problems. They sent some bylaw officers and they charged me more money on my property taxes because of the garbage that they accumulate.
Before there was no dog there. No dog up here. No dog in Brantford.
It's always the responsibility of the landlord to take care of the property maintenance. I understand that. But when there's an intervention from outside, bringing garbage inside, that becomes a problem. This was to be a clean area. And then the garbage that's already there from other tenants that we put there for the week to be put to the side of the curb, that gets all mangled up, that gets all broken up because they kind of look for things in the garbage, which is really, really distressing.
So as you can see the garbage mess behind me, this is 3 days after garbage day. The garbage day here is Tuesday night. Me, my mom and brothers come out, we clean it up, we take everything to the curb, and 3 days later, this is what we have to deal with. As you can see, the opposite side of where the problem is, absolutely clean. No bags, no garbage, no nothing. There's been countless of people now that have admitted that they come here to buy their drugs off of Jeff.
So from February 1st, he stopped paying. Here we are in July, almost the end of July. And we have 5-6 months in a row unpaid, it becomes a problem.
Who is it? Who is it?
It's the landlord.
Hey, 1 second.
Okay. Hi. Hi. Is Jeff here?
He's not here right now. No.
Okay.
We're just packing everything up now.
Oh, you're packing up? Yeah, I want my rent.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. He's just gone out for probably about half an hour. He'll be back in about half an hour.
I really need my rent paid because you guys have been here so many months and not paid me anything since February 1st.
I'll let him know.
And we're now like the end of July.
I also don't think it's fair that we haven't had hot water or heat the entire winter.
No, you've had.
No. We have to follow the bylaw, thank you.
No, you paid. You registered with the city.
There was no fire alarms. There was no carbon monoxide detector.
You took out the fire alarms. And I had everything done here.
The fire department mentioned that he has had nothing but problems.
No, you took everything out.
No.
You've ruined my place.
What do you think though about like families living here and there's people passed out here? People claim that there's needles and stuff.
None of my friends do needles. None of us
or
do
crack pipes.
None of that. I will show you my arms. There's no needles.
Yeah, there's needles found every day here.
And then has to come from here. I'll show you. None of my friends have ever touched a needle.
We collected.
I don't care what you collected. It doesn't mean anybody here did it.
We collected a lot of needles around here.
Go look around the side of the building. Go look around the side of the building.
I have looked.
Who did that? Your f***ing upstairs neighbor did, throwing it out the window.
Why are you blaming just her?
Get
What do you have to say about the claims that he made about the water, the water and stuff?
Yeah, right. Well, they are registered with the city with the water tank. I paid for the water, not them. We called the firefighters here several times because they lit the place on fire on the balcony. I've tried to do an N5, an N6, an N4. If you don't know, the viewers, what they are, an N4 is for eviction, and N6 is when there's crime, illicit activity, and N5 is when there's disturbance to other tenants. I mean, I did all the forms, and then you kind of go to the next step, and then you apply to the board to have them removed. But the process is very, very arduous and long. The sheriff is going to come here to evict the tenant on July the 29th.
Great.
Hi, Jeff. It looks like you're getting your stuff packed up. Yeah, pretty much right we go.
I'm getting a sense of relief because it's been such a long time I've been waiting for this day.
Hey, Jeff? So you had this many people living in a bachelor?
No, they just come over to help me move.
Oh, yeah? So, what's with all the garbage out here, man?
I'm a f***ing slob.
You're a slob.
Yeah, you like it? Where's the f***ing free checks? You guys, eh?
So why didn't you pay rent?
Because I didn't f***ing turn on the hydro or f***ing hot water.
That's not on you?
No, it's f***ing not. I pay it, but they wouldn't turn it on.
Okay.
I got f***ing credit. Call them up.
Yeah.
These
all right.
guys got a track record.
So what about all the people that would be passed out of your unit here? You think that's safe for families? They're buying dope.
Lots of it. You want to buy some?
So you're
I'll tell you some right now.
So you're selling dope?
I got a pocket full.
So do you
want to buy some or not?
So you sell...
Do you want to buy some or not?
So you sell dope to people, they pass out in front of your unit, there's families around here. You think that's
whatever
safe?
You say.
You think that's safe for kids?
Whatever you say. You're God.
That's a great example you're setting for children, you know. You should think about them when you're doing that.
True place, don't lie.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that right now. You should be really proud of yourself.
I'm gonna come down here and humble you.
What's that? Can you say that again?
I am gonna come down here and award you.
You condone this?
Huh?
Well, there's kids around here, man.
Well, go then.
There's kids around here. You got people passed out here, drug paraphernalia.
Where's that?
And there's kids, man. What do you think about that?
Off.
You want to play around here, eh? And you obviously it's not safe for you to play.
We sometimes play back here, but if we see anyone over there, we just run this way inside the house.
See, I feel bad for you kids that live around here. You know, I remember being a kid growing up. You know, you're running around, you're exploring, right? This is not a safe place right now to explore, and hopefully with them leaving, it's going to be safe for you and your friends.
Yeah, I hope.
It's important to clarify that this unit here is a bachelor, okay? And we've counted roughly 7 people crawl out of this bachelor. So just think about that many people crammed into that tight of a space.
They live there. They're there every day, all night.
They're a worthless animal.
I asked him why people are passed out in front of his unit, and you showed me photos of that. So they're buying dope, doing dope, I guess. What do the cops do about this?
Absolutely nada, nothing. How many times have the cops come? How many reports do I have? How many incident numbers do I have? In conclusion, I even called Crime Stoppers. Have they done anything? Nada.
What about the kids that are around here?
Where's that guy at? I'm not kidding. Get the away from me, you
Very nice.
I have a 10-year-old kid. I don't need him to see some junkie overdose behind my place or in a parking lot real close or in the park. It's getting rough. Cops won't do
My son saw a lady from the Unit 5 come to the side of the building with two men, and they gave her a bag and she gave them money. He's 10, so not good. And then my daughter as well, the same crackhead lady, she called her a stupid, ugly whore. My daughter's 12.
You see people are still coming by for whatever reasons. What's that?
He seemed like a good guy in the beginning. He had good references. Believe it or not, he was on ODSP. We thought that would be a good tenant, but it turned out to be this nightmare.
You want to take someone's word, which isn't worth anything anymore, because they tell you what they want, what you want to hear. They'll lie on their references. They'll lie, and until they get those keys in their hands, they shut the door, and then that's when you see who they are.
You saw Lloyd previously in the video, and at the time they were still living here. He was a little worried about showing his face on camera. Now he's okay. He does maintenance for the properties here, and Lloyd is going to bring us inside the unit, right, Lloyd?
Yep.
All right, let's
Go ahead.
Here, you lead the way. All right, so, like, I'm wondering if they were actually living like this, or if this is the clutter from moving that we'll never really know.
Not really, no.
Because you've been inside the unit, right?
Yes, I was in the unit when it was before they moved in. Everything was brand new. Everything looked really nice. All new paint, new floors, new everything. And this is how it ended up.
Look at this. How to prepare your crack pipe. This seems to be like an official government pamphlet.
Yes, they come from the government with a lot of your Narcan kits and stuff like that. You can tell where they were doing their
crushed up pill here.
Yeah.
So how many people on average do you think were living in here?
The one guy admitted there was 14 people at one point.
In this
room. Unit.
It's a room.
Yeah.
It's literally a room.
Yeah.
Right here is a crack pipe. They've just left it on the kitchen counter next to some bread, some spices. What's next for you guys?
A new apartment.
To live in?
Yeah.
Let's just say the government offered like a rehab or something to get you guys clean, working, stuff. Would you guys take that help? Maybe?
The government isn't offering that, so...
If they were, though, would you guys consider it?
Would consider it.
I understand, like, a lot of people say it's a mental health thing, but at the same time, maybe they should get some help.
I think if you got 2 legs and a heartbeat, you can go out there and work just like the rest of us.
I know even a lot of the centers and that you're supposed to go to get help, they're now handing out types of drugs and free drug supplies and everything else so that they can continue using instead of getting them the help that they need.
I do sympathize with people that are in the depths of addiction. Mm-hmm. It's tough.
As well.
And, it doesn't help when you have people in high places making it seem like, it's okay. And instead of trying to get them out of the lifestyle.
100%. No, obviously they have people that care about them, and they need help, and they need someone has to step up and do something, because whatever's doing right now, it's just not working.
I reached out to Larry Brock, and then after his campaign, I congratulated for winning, but I was supposed to get an appointment. He promised me an appointment to see him after at his office. It never happened.
So it's official. The sheriff has come. They've placed this posting on the door, notice of vacant possession, and the tenant has officially been evicted. The sad reality in Canada is that hard drug use is running rampant through cities and communities all across the country. If you want to see people in the depths of addiction receive treatment rather than being encouraged to continue this lifestyle, visit our website helpnotharm.ca, sign the petition, and have your voice heard. Thanks for watching the video.
over the last portion of the show to you. And I know these are your letters to Ezra, but I'm hosting the show today while Ezra's away for a couple of days. So you're going to get my responses. And I hope that's okay. So your letters to me come by way of Ezra's interview with Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom's lawyer Marty Moore. And he was speaking on Premier Tim Houston's ban on hiking because walking in the woods is going to cause lightning and arson. And I know this is a divisive issue, even amongst conservatives, but there are ways to balance our rights with public safety regarding fires. I'm an outdoors woman. I am a conservationist. And people like me don't start irresponsible fires. We worry about being intrinsically safe during times of high fires. And so I won't be doing any fire lighting while I'm in the bushes, but walking through the bushes, that's not going to do anything. And in fact, it might even make people a little safer because you'll have people there who would notice a fire. But I don't know. I don't work for the government, so apparently there are smarter people than me coming up with solutions. David Hines writes, so did Premier Houston in effect just admit that Nova Scotia, like many other provinces, is not practicing good forest management? Just asking. Well, I do know that the federal government should not be providing any input into this because they definitely don't provide good forest management in the forests that they are in charge of, like Jasper. And in fact, the fire only really came under control once the province of Alberta got involved, because the federal government did not appropriately manage the forest in Jasper National Park here in Alberta that was damaged by pine beetle for the better part of a decade. And then they didn't mechanically clear the forest because they're worried it might look ugly. You know what's ugly? When 1/3 of the town is burned down. But yeah. There have to be better ways to do this. There just has to be better ways than banning people who can't afford any other form of recreation than keeping people out of the forest. There has to be a better way. Anything can be outlawed in the name of safety and in the public good, right? Like any action. Normally we try to make an effort to balance people's charter rights with public safety, but that sort of went out the door 5 years ago. And governments have forgotten what it used to be like in the before times when they actually had to find a way to respect people's rights. But now they just think they can tromp all over them. Jane Vandervliet says, this is the woods. This is not the woods. Those both look exactly the same. Hilarious. That is on in relation to a video posted by a veteran who has since been issued a $25,000 plus, I think, surcharges, so $2,800 fine for walking in the woods. And he pointed out the absurdity of it all. What the government considers woods versus what is actually woods. And they, as the meme goes, these two pictures are the same, but one is illegal and one isn't for safety. But if you have to be out of that one for safety, why aren't you out of that one for, it doesn't make any sense. And that's the whole problem with all of this, is that the rules don't make any sense. It's just like during COVID, where deadly COVID in the grocery store only traveled counterclockwise. So if you were walking in the grocery store clockwise, you were safe. But the Black Death, it came counterclockwise. If you were sitting in a bar, having a drink with your friend, if you were sitting, perfectly safe. But man alive, if you stood up and you got yourself over 3.5 feet when you weren't wearing a mask, the deadly COVID, it has some sort of altimeter on it that was more deadly if you stood up without a mask on. Like, it's all just performative. It's just to see who will follow blindly the dumbest things because somebody in authority told you. Bruce Atchison, who normally writes into me, Bruce, I won't be jealous, but Bruce normally writes into my show, The Gun Show, on Wednesdays, but I also see that he, I thought I was his favorite, but he's writing into Ezra too. So Bruce says, humanizing the enemy is the left's ploy to propagandizing the masses. If they make vile people like Palestinian terrorists look pathetic and helpless, they'll arouse the public's sympathies. Oh, I think we're talking about the staged hungry people, where newspapers in the United States were publishing Hamas propaganda that were completely staged photographs to show how the Israelis were starving the Palestinians in Gaza. Well, it's not true. If anybody's starving in Gaza, it's because Hamas is scooping all the aid and it's being looted on its way in. Can friction of shoes on grass and soil start a fire? If so, Blaine Higgs is right. But I call BS because I doubt that a brush with the brush couldn't create a big enough spark to ignite tinder dry material. And what a disappointment Blaine Higgs is. There are a lot of people currently disappointing me with their overreaction to this. And again, I say, if you can just throw everybody's rights out the door in the name of public safety, then you can do that for anything, right? You're supposed to damage people's rights the least in an emergency, not just throw them on the bonfire of civil liberties, as it were. Yeah. COVID. Governments learned something, but so did I. Well, everybody, that's the show for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for everybody for bearing with me as I throw a show together while Ezra's away. And it's my show today, so I'll say my tagline. If you find me offensive, maybe don't find me at all.